at times we might want to point fingers to the president of the country for some issues that are happening. But if we look at it keenly, we discover that for the fact that he is a person that is silent, he has a way of leadership which is a way of silence, which a lot of people are perplexed about. Like I said something yesterday, it is easy to make noise. It's not easy to stay quiet. Somebody like him who rules with quietness gives a lot of opportunity to individuals who think that his quietness is weakness. And so they act and react most at times out of order, feeling that they are doing it to please the president. But in that case, when doing that, the disorder is created. I don't think the prime minister actually acted also just because he wanted to act. Might be his boss also might have asked him a question, what is happening? And then he decided to say, no, let me correct it. Or might be like Apostle Ambejo said, he might have been sitting and saying, there's actually disorder. If God one day gives me the opportunity, I'll correct this error. And now he has come into the office and he is struggling to put things in order.
Okay, he's coming into office, struggling to put things in order. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I enjoy the program. My question is, could the Prime Minister not send this message to his ministers privately? Okay, if he did that, you would not. Yeah. Good things to you all in the studio. I really appreciate what you all are doing, especially Apostle Ambe Valentine with his deep insights and analysis. God bless you all. Reverend Father Bertus Asanji, writing from Bamenda. Now, good evening to you, Reverend. Apostle Ambe, which areas in the government circle has actually exposed the government's weakness as far as the fight against COVID-19 is concerned?
Two specific sectors of the government or ministries, I'll put it this way. The Ministry of Finance, they have not put finances in fighting against the COVID-19 as expected. We are not comparing Cameroon with every other nation, and we want to work within the confines of the Cameroonian society. I don't want to say Senegal has done this one. They know where they are coming from with their finances. Let us consider the fact that Cameroon is considered as the second most hard-hit nation in the continent of Africa as far as COVID-19 is concerned. What we expected from the government, which automatically we have been talking and saying it over and over, are some measures they put in place, and these measures are not sufficient. We have seen a lot of situations on ground whereby, for the sake of people struggling to eat, they are instead transmitting these diseases more than ever before. I've always come on a platform and I will say, Senegal has done this, Gabon has done this, Chad has done this one has done this, Tanzania has done this. I don't want us to compare Cameroon with every other country because we don't know those people, their budget, and how we get our own budget. Let's talk within the Cameroonian context. I want to say financially, I must be sincere. The finances needed to fight against the COVID-19 has not been put in place. We started with that even depositing amount of money. We are talking about funds to raise. And the government deposited $1 billion in that fund. As far as I'm concerned, it is $1 billion the Cameroon government has released so far to fight against COVID-19. And then they are asking people to contribute, which means which the contributions are very, very slow. People are timid. Very timid. People are not contributing, which is very, very disappointing. And if you look at it, the COVID-19 is taking a greater toll on us. The last time the minister gave out the report, we were about 803 cases, which is very, very drastic for a country like us. And the parameters that are being put in place to solve the crisis are very, very disappointing. So in that area, the Ministry of Finance has not done anything. Secondly, the Ministry of Commerce. In a time like this, they were supposed to have reduced the price of certain things based on the fact that money is no longer circulating, people are in their houses, and a lot of things have cut down the flow of money in the society. So I think that the cost of materials or basic commodities were supposed to have been reduced. Something like petrol. You look at bike men today, you go to taxis, they have reduced their passengers. It's falling back on the common because why? Somebody who does not carry 4 passengers will increase the price. The last time to Bamenda is 7,000 francs. Bamenda used to be 5,000 francs, an additional 2,000 francs. They wage force on the common man who does not even have a means to go out and do any business. So Ministry of Commerce has not helped us. The Ministry of Health has been working. I must confess. They've been working. They updated us at every given phase of this crisis, how things are going. But the measures put in place by the Ministry of Health to curb the crisis is not enterprising at all. How? Because I think Cameroon as a nation was supposed to have had at least sufficient kits to detect the sickness. I heard recently Melinda Gates said the reason why we have not yet seen the number of cases we are expecting in Africa because we don't even have the kits to check the number of people who are sick. That there are a lot of potential carriers who have not even known. So the reason why all the other countries are discovering they are because why they have the machine to even check that somebody is sick. There are many people already sick in Africa who don't even have the kits to check. So I think that one was not something we were supposed to wait for Jack Ma Foundation, Alibaba Foundation to send us kits to check. Because the last time I checked, Alibaba Foundation sent 20,000 kits and 100,000 masks to Cameroon.
Okay.
So these three ministries, commerce, health, and finance, they have not been working effectively to put this crisis to an end.
Good evening, Mr. Kum. I think we are in a country where the government is not serious. They can't even work in collaboration. When you take a look at the communique on the resumption of schools on April 20th, closely you will realize that the signature of the Minister of Basic Education was authentic while that of the Minister of Secondary Education was forged. It's really a shame on the side of the government. This is Dennis Aki, me writing from Douala, Cameroon's economic capital. I'll take one more message and then we continue with our discussions out here in our studios. This one reads, hello, it's G-Boy from Kambe. Can coronavirus affect someone through a mosquito bite? Nope, it can't. This one says the PM didn't go to Bamenda on his. He was sent by the head of state. The man with the cap stopped uploading the PM for going to ground zero where the others are afraid. Paulo is writing from Limbe. Good evening to you all in the house. I think the government needs to do away with all the ministers and administrators because they are the cause of problems in this country. Nuyit Ronald is writing from Bamenda. Okay, the message is not too clear. We have to look at our second topic for today, which has to do with our state universities and other higher institutions of learning in Cameroon. I will start with you, Professor Mark Anthony. You are a product of Cameroon's educational system. I start by having your take on it.
Okay, Mr. Leo, the first thing I want to say concerning the system of education in Cameroon is that it is an outdated educational system.
Okay.
I always say that. And secondly, I want to begin, I also say we can't actually expect the universities in Cameroon and actually the professional institutions in Cameroon to be of any importance in the fight of this particular COVID-19. Reason?
Crisis.
Cameroon.
Yeah, I say in terms of crisis.
Yes,
I said in terms of
I'm
crisis.
talking of the crisis. I'm talking of COVID-19 and any other crisis. For example, in Cameroon, we have we have universities that are actually teaching political sciences, and we have a situation that's been killing Cameroon for years. I think the Northwest-Southwest problem that is happening right now, we'll use the word Anglophone problem that's actually happening in Cameroon at this moment, has been in Cameroon for years. And it heightened in 2016. See, this particular date we are talking about. And we have political scientists in this particular nation and professors of political science whom have not been able to actually bring up any tangible roadmap to actually defeating. Even if they brought it, those who are sitting at the helm of power will not be able to apply, and they don't have that zeal to apply those strategies. When it also comes to technology, for example, we have universities with departments that are actually handling technology. But you see, our technology is just the one that we actually sit down and study what had been produced, not what we can actually produce. And Mr. Leo, I will not be that individual who come and boast that Cameroon has a powerful educational system that can permit our universities to give us any hope for fighting crisis in this particular nation. We have seen a lot of issues happening in Cameroon, and we have not been able to see. The last time I was talking, I don't know, still here, and I mentioned something. I said, what most of us we fail to understand about education is that education is not filling your head. And that is exactly what is happening in Cameroon. Our education is actually built in a way where we fill your head, then we give you directives on how to get a job tomorrow, not on how to be productive and creative. But every educational system that does not target professionalism will never be able to handle the crisis of its own nation. We have departments of agriculture in different universities in Cameroon, and you see we are unable to produce rice in our own country and export.
We are going to look
Those
at
are crisis
we are going to look at food self-sufficiency. It is a problem, especially in times of crisis, because assuming that there is a clear blockade of the possibility of importing rice from the external world, Cameroon is going to face an acute problem. So the universities, like you say, are supposed to be working in that light, but we are coming to it. University centers, we've heard speeches over decades today that universities are centers of excellence across the nation. Does that really tie with what we have today?
Mr. Leo, Cameroon does not have problem because it does not have the brains in Cameroon to solve the problem. No, we have great brains in Cameroon. Somebody who has studied the Chinese system of education, the Cameroonian system of education, we are very strong theoretically. We are not strong practically. When it comes to mental capacity in theoretical domain, we have a very sound educational curriculum. We can absorb informations, but we cannot create with those informations. Secondly, our university centers are learning centers, not research centers. You learn to obtain a certificate. You research to solve results. That's what I said. I said you learn to obtain certificates. You research to solve results. We do not have any center of control of diseases in Africa. Talk less of income. We don't have in Cameroon here. Now, if we are talking about our universities in Cameroon, our universities are universities where people study to obtain degrees and look for jobs. But if you look at university in other countries, people research to solve problems in the society. A university professor is supposed to come out with a solution to a problem that has lingered for too long. Wow, why do we have those challenges? We do not have the resources and the materials needed to make Cameroonian professors researchers. Most of our professors are lecturers. I was on a TV platform, I was asking a professor, I say, a professor of nuclear chemistry in Cameroon cannot be compared to a degree holder of nuclear chemistry in Iran. Because in Iran, a nuclear chemist can produce bomb. But a Cameroonian professor in nuclear chemistry, he told me that Weimar will not show the secret of education. So I asked him, I said, Professor, what kind of education do we have in Africa and what kind do they have in Europe and America? He said, the system of education they have in Africa is different one in Europe. I said, but most of you left here and studied in Europe. What did you gather from Europe to bring back here in Africa? He said, the white man will not show you the secret of education. I'm asking that if white man does not show us the secret of education, black man cannot create his own secret. That's the problem. Recently, we realized that because of the COVID-19 crisis, Africans are becoming very creative. Do you realize that they have been able to discover a kit in Kenya that can detect the coronavirus because we are not given the opportunity to travel abroad? Do you realize that we have been able to make our own mask? We are no longer buying surgical masks from abroad because of COVID-19. May all these borders be shut. It is because we have put up our minds that Africans can depend on Europeans. If at all they close all these borders for 2 to 3 years, you will discover that we will start producing ventilators. So you see the anger of the Chinese now against the Africans in Europe or in China is because why? They were expecting us to have been buying things like masks from them, buying hand sanitizers. It is Cameroonians that produce one of those sanitizers. Because why? They blocked the border. If at all they did not block those borders, we would have imported everything there, including toothpick. So I think the challenge we have here is that we should turn our university centers from learning centers to research centers. Because you research to solve problems and you learn to obtain certificate. Every Cameroonian that goes to university learns to obtain a certificate. Can you imagine? The second thing is that most of our professors in Cameroon, their minds are teleguided. When a man obtains a professorate in political science and is appointed a minister, he is being teleguided by the state, not the political science again. They know the truth. But because they are being bought over by offices in the government or one sector, they become very vulnerable to even exhibit and display the knowledge. Sometimes you sit on television, you watch a professor explaining things, you wonder what he read in school, because what he read in school is contrary. When partisanship consumes patriotism, it affects the growth of a nation. Most of our professors know what to do to solve the crisis in our country. They have the brain. But because they are being teleguided by the television, like a television with a remote control, they are afraid to lose their responsibilities and their offices in the government. They cannot be able to boil down the knowledge they have.
Apostle, we are going to come and we are going to come to the issue of professors and doctors in Cameroon. But when we look at the educational system as set up in Cameroon, what went wrong? Is it the fact that the objectives that were set, because most of these universities were created decades ago, is it the fact that the objectives that were targeted at the time no longer holds true today?
Mr. Leo, at the moment of setting these universities in Cameroon, it was just an issue of learning. And it was not actually an issue of problem solving. We were struggling to import what the white man was doing and implement in Africa. And so that is why if you look critically, when they want to, if you get back into institutions, what they did is they just brought what they were studying, for example, in France, and implemented in Cameroon. And that is why it is even till today as we are talking, you see history students are still studying European history instead of studying Cameroon history.
What Napoleon did.
What Napoleon did, not what we can do and what Ernest Wanji did.
That's studying Crimean law.
So
Crimean War.
They forget. You see, when you look at it critically, you discover that the vision was just to educate the citizens. It was not all about actually producing learned men. We needed to give them opportunity to have book like the white man have in his head and be able to occupy an office and sit and lead. That was the target at that time.
When there are occasions, we come out that okay, I am a university degree holder, yes, and yes.
So that was actually the target at that particular period of time. And you see, as time was progressing, Cameroonians started discovering that the educational system that they have studied cannot be implemented in their own country because it has no relation with their environment. And as a result of that, what remains is just what you have in your head, but there's no practical evidence of it. And that is the problem that we have here, because we are struggling to use the 19th century educational system to actually live in the 21st century. You can't use the weapons of the 19th century to fight the battles of the 21st century because it becomes practically impossible. So we need to restructure the educational system to meet up with the challenges of the time and let our educational system be local, meaning that it should relate with the environment and the situations in which we are facing. If not, we'll end up still as beggars. We'll be expecting to receive everything from Europe. And though we have all the raw materials in Africa.
Yeah, but how do we explain the fact that many observations have been made on the weaknesses of our educational system? Comparative studies have been done with respect to what obtains, especially in the East. I'm talking about Asian nations that have emerged from their local economies because they were equally colonized by the West. How do we understand that authorities, especially those of the educational sector, have not learned, maybe go to the East to school, to go to school, learn what they did so that it could be implemented in Cameroon, so that there should be a clear paradigm shift from what obtained, say, 25, 30 years ago?
You see, there is colonialism and neo-colonialism. We are still under neo-colonialism, and we are compelled to follow a curriculum we do not want. When you can talk about independence, in the East, there is a level of independence. We don't have independence in Africa. We do not have independence. There's a level of independence. Look like India. For instance, North Korea. North Korea is under all kinds of sanctions. One. Number two, crops don't even grow in North Korea. With all the sanctions given to North Korea and the opportunity not even produce, North Korea is far more better than us. We don't have sanctions. We have good climatic conditions. We have all kinds of raw materials. Yet we cannot prosper. Why? is because North Korea is investing in things that threaten the West. Technology. We are investing in raw materials. We produce raw materials and they refine it and sell back to us more expensively. I have said that until we stop producing learning centers and start producing research centers in Africa, we can never over.
Yeah, but the problem is you want us to create centers where they train people who can provide solutions to existing problems. These centers can only be created through policy and the system that is in place. Why has it been very difficult for education ministers, directors to redesign the system of education like we have in Cameroon for the past 20-30 years?
We go back to the same story of the neo-colonialism. Is it not amazing to realize that you leave Cameroon with a degree and go to France? That gave us curriculum. You have to still study in France to obtain their certificate before you are qualified. It's not amazing that we study about Christopher Columbus discovering America. We go to America, you get your degree in university, you put it under the box. They have to give you an American training because they themselves who gave us the educational curriculum do not even trust in it. Now my problem is this: we are already grown up. As I'm talking now, Cameroonians are listening to me and they are very conscious of what is happening. What is the power holding them from debunking this curriculum in Africa and we restructure our own curriculum?
Yeah, but that's my question to you.
That's the question. The question I'm telling you is that we don't have the authority.
Our hands are tied.
Our hands are tied. We don't have the authority.
Are you saying that if you were to be made Minister of Secondary Education today or Minister of Basic Education, you wouldn't undertake any reform in Cameroon?
Why won't I take?
So,
if I am appointed, listen, everybody, well, you are talking as an individual here. We are individuals. I can choose to sacrifice my life, burn all the curriculum, restructure something, and I'll die after that. But nobody is willing to die. Because when they go, they taste the milk and the honey of the office, they don't want to die. They live long. Everybody that has caused a reformation has chosen to sacrifice himself. Like the likes of Martin Luther King and the rest. They were poor who decided to give their lives. How many ministers in this country are willing to sell their lives for the sake of the change of things in this country? It's very complicated. Because if you look at it critically, they will not tell us that Mango Park discovered River Niger. Were there no blacks there? What are we doing with those things? What are we doing with those things?
Okay. Now, do you think that as the years have gone by, things have evolved? We have issues of Ebola. We've had many crises plaguing Africa. Have you seen our curriculum designed to want to be as a source of solution to some of the critical problems plaguing Africa? At any of the levels?
Mr. Leo, it is funny the question you just asked, because if you look at it critically, we have doctors that we are raised. If our universities can actually raise doctors, then our hospitals lack efficient doctors. That's to make you understand that the system is completely destroyed. I want to say this. What is supposed to be happening in Cameroon is this.
Yeah, but I won't also allow you claim that our doctors are inefficient. Maybe the manpower the manpower may be smaller relative to the demand.
You are cutting the talk out of my mouth, so you don't want me to complete.
Okay.
What I'll tell you is this: when I say inefficient, it is not because they don't have a training. Their training does not permit them. It's general medicine that most of them are doing. If you need to specialize, you need to get out of this country and you go and specialize there. So it means that our educational structure, the system, is not capable enough to build minds that have that capacity to reproduce. Let me use the word to produce, because we actually need creativity and innovation in order to make progress in our nation. But once education is meant, just as I said earlier, to fill your head, give you certificates without actually giving you the weapons to fight the battles you are going to face, you are just a noisemaker. Everything you will be saying or doing will have no capacity. And that is exactly what is happening in Cameroon. And you look, when we look, for example, let's get into medicine. Before the white man came to Africa, there is traditional, let me use the word, there are herbs. And even what we call today medicine actually comes from those bark of trees and all those things that they do and tablet and sell back to us. I believe that we have everything it takes to go back and study natural the nature and
natural science.
Yes, natural science, to be able to come up with what it takes to fight this thing. I want to believe that as an individual, I was growing with my grandmother. I used to see her fight malaria at a time when people said there was no cure for malaria. She would get into the bush, cut some leaves, back of trees, come and boil. And by the time she's through with it, there is no malaria case in the house again. What was she doing? The question I want to ask is, does it mean that my grandmother is more scientific than our scientists? I don't think so. The issue is, at a particular moment, you can't be expecting from Europeans to deal with African problems. We are in a different geographical location from theirs. The issues we go through are different from theirs. And so if we need to be able to solve our problems, then we must study in relation to our problems. Implying that any curriculum that is supposed to be built up must be a curriculum that is geared towards solving the immediate problems of Africans and immediate problems of Cameroonians. Meaning that we need to restructure that system to look at our daily activities and the environmental issues that we are suffering, to build a curriculum that faces them.
Who give you that right?
You see,
what stops you from doing that?
There is actually nothing that is going to stop most of us from doing it. Because it might be that, okay, we are looking up to have the certificate for you to be recognized as somebody who has this. But I believe that Africans can start getting into professionalism and forget about their documents. I have gone to an interview somewhere. I never heard anybody ask me, which certificate do you have? They asked me of my competency. What can you do?
Okay. Yeah.
And Mr. Leo, that is what we need to be fighting for.
Okay.
We need to build Cameroonians to be able to give what they can do, not what they have studied.
Greetings to you, Mr. Kum, and to the brains on panel is Joel from Bafoussam. Your program is good for education. Mr. Kum, I am a bike rider in Bafoussam and I am a graduate from ENS Bambili, but I have no job because of Bia's government. Kamto is very, very right, because right now the citizens need their president to give them a speech of hope, a speech to make us strong, but he is nowhere to be found. Other countries have stopped landlords from taking rents because it is not easy now with finance. Even lights and water bills, we still pay them, and I don't work up to 2.5 a day because we carry one person, and if you double the price, the person you want to carry will not have the money to pay. What are the measures put in place? I am an IDP here in Bafoussam. You can imagine. Good evening to you, and we are sorry for your situation. Good evening. Cameroon needs a new government because Paul Biya government has failed Cameroonians. Good evening, Leo and the crew. I'm always having problems with my wife, for she is adamant to follow this year wonderful program. Yesterday I missed you. Yesterday with the mighty senior barrister Ashu. Thanks. Thank God I just bought another set of television. Hope peace will return to my home now. Ishe John writing from Yaoundé. Ishe, good evening to you. Thank God you bought a new TV, and that peace will definitely come back to your home. Let's look at the technical education. We are looking at our universities. I don't know how many technical universities we have in Cameroon, but we know that is where solution providers come from. We are talking about a nation that wants to emerge by 2035, and we are talking engineers, we are talking state-of-the-art carpenters, we are talking all these, engineers. Do we see the nation actually focusing more on that?
They don't.
How do we explain that we want to emerge 2035? And we know it is very clear that to emerge, we need these persons. And today, we are not seeing a clear change towards technical education?
Mr. Leo, let's get back to the few technical schools that were somehow building up technicians in those days. We have GTHS Ombe, we have Sofati Kumba, and we have Canada Bamenda. Those are the 3 technical schools in the English-speaking region we knew in those days. And then we have a Lycée Technique here in Douala and some other Kumasi, Aqua. Those technical schools, if you get into those technical schools, initially when they started, they had very powerful instruments for practicals. But if you get down there now to those places, those workshops are completely empty. Now, how do you expect to train a technician theoretically whose life is dependent on practical works every day? That's it. Secondly, we don't have vocational training centers. We had one in Boyako, OIC. It has vanished into thin air. Have you asked why all these structures suddenly disappeared into the air? When politics overrides governance, the masses suffer the casualties. I repeat, when politics overrides governance, the masses suffer the casualties. We don't want to get into agriculture. Because when I was growing up, I used to know of MOVCOOP, which was Muyoka Cooperative Farmers, LAFCOOP, Limbe, BAFCOOP, Bamenda. Now, where are all those cooperative associations? They are gone. It's to make us understand that what has eaten deep into the very fabric of the Cameroonian society is that the interest of men have taken over the interest of the nation. People are working for self-aggrandizement. We need vocational training centers. And like I said earlier, I was on a platform, they said, oh, we want professional. I said, professionalism has to do with competence, not certificate.
Yes.
Somebody might not have a certificate, but has a skill that is very, very outstanding in it. And let's give chance for skill to manifest rather than carrying diplomas and certificates. I know of teachers who don't know how to explain on the board. But I know of people who are not even trained as teachers. They have the capacity to communicate. I know of men who are in the field of journalism who cannot communicate. And I know of men who are not journalists, but they have the capacity to communicate. The issue is this. In the Western world, like I was following the Sochi conference in Russia, Vladimir Putin said there are 12 million Africans in Russia studying. 4 million of those Africans are under scholarship by the Russian Federation. Now, I was asking myself, when they organized the Sochi conference, African presidents flew there to go and buy arms. I was asking that the Africans studying in Sochi, studying in Russia, under the Russian Federation scholarship, what are they studying that their president will still come and buy arms over there? That is a problem. We leave Africa and go to Europe and study. What will they still give us in that Europe where we don't come out with something substantial here? Because you hear somebody say, I studied in Hampshire. I studied in Washington. What they brought back is grammar and explanation. They didn't come with anything substantial and tangible to change us who are here. Let's say that they would not have the material and the facilities to learn. They who flew over there and learned with all those facilities, what did they bring here? That's the problem. I was studying from the University of Kingston in Jamaica. I did petrochemical engineering, and you cannot do simple extraction of sulfur. The one you study on the board, you cannot mount the things on the ground. It's still whites we have on all petroleum platforms in Africa.
Now, my question to you had to do with technical education.
That's what we are talking.
Yes, I know. I stay with you on that. He raises the issue of the fact that those that were existing in former British Southern Cameroon, he's talking about Bamenda, Canada in Bamenda, Sofati, Kumba and Ombe, and we have the likes of Kumasi. Is the issue the fact that most of the existing equipment had been taken away, or the fact that when government decided to want to pursue the vision of wanting to emerge, they were supposed not only to depend on this, but also create wonderfully equipped centers, even more than what we are whipping over now.
Renovation.
Yes, Mr. Leo. You see, this is the issue. When we don't have a vision, you don't expect progress. The leadership of this country had never been a leadership with a vision. Because if it was a leadership with a vision, I read communal liberalism, and I saw a vision that was presented. But since the 1985, see this very day I'm talking, I've not seen any of those things realized.
Nothing.
Why? It means it was just a book, but not a true vision.
No, let me not cut you. It was a vision, but their hands are tied.
Okay, let's
You just have to be very clean. That man is intelligent.
When
His
we
hands
come
are
back
tied.
to it, at times we might want to blame the white man, but let us not go to those high things of producing machines and all that. What about, we know that our nation is an agrarian nation. We depend on agriculture. Which agricultural setup have we been able to put in place that can permit us to somehow be the exporters of food? When you look into the agricultural system, you will discover that we talk a lot to students on farming, but we don't see the effects on the ground.
Nothing.
Implying that we are giving them theories, but there is no practical follow-up. And you don't expect that when theory is impacted in the minds of people, that any guidance with practicality, you should see results. There will be no results. So when that question comes, Mr. Leo, I will not say Cameroon is unable. Cameroon is able. I was growing with my grandma. Thank God she's still alive. She used to have these cows that Medino used to give them. She used to walk weed in Babankitungo. Used to walk weed. And during that period of time, we were not lacking rice because she used to walk rice too. All that knowledge she had, she never went to
any school,
high university. I know she went to school somehow in standard. They ended in standard 6.
Yeah, but why is the government not multiplying?
Mr. Leo, this is where I want to dive down. You discover that the system that was set precisely in the Anglophone section of this nation was, the intent was to raise productive individuals. The intent was to professionalize education. And that is why when you look, Foncha establishing, starting what we call the Ombe. Ombe was supposed to be a university.
Of course.
Not a secondary school. And a technical university. That was the dream of Foncha. When he brought in technical education, he wanted young Cameroonians from the Anglophone section that are growing.
Yeah, granted, Professor.
Yes.
That was the vision of Foncha.
Yeah.
That is why we had the Ombes, the Canadas, the Sofatis, and a host of others.
So that we can have professionals.
Yes. Why don't we have say in a place like in Mezam? Why don't we have 10 Canadas in the southwest region, 20 Canadas in say
Mr. Leo, it is simple. Reason being that those who have been in power for the past season of time have allowed politics, like Apostle said, to take over this vision that was set in place. They have politicized everything. Even education has been politicized. Yeah, and so you don't expect any productivity to come out of it.
Yes, I want us to talk about the place of professors in Cameroon. They are the ones running our professional higher institutions as well as our state universities. They head the departments.
Yes.
But let me take some of our televiewers who are watching us. The problem with our educational system is that we keep on the same tune. Imagine I took a friend's physics book, high school 1995, and I saw one and the same thing, word by word. It shows that there is no change, no improvement, and it still exists today. The equipment to be used for practicals are there, reason being that the school authorities will ask for money to buy practical equipment, and when the money is given, they take the money and put in their pockets. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. To prevent COVID-19 in Cameroon does not only need the government assistance, but everybody needs to contribute, beginning with us, the parents, to everyone, including our brothers in the studio with you, just talking in the air. Let people see you. See, you will not take us anywhere. Take note that this is end time. Hosea 6, verse 1, 2, 2 Peter 3 and 1 up to 8. Mr. Eta Oben, writing from Mutengene. Thank you, Mr. Eta Oben. Good evening to you all in the studio. I'm Miss Ngale Patience from Limbe. I'm very impressed with your program. I support my brother putting on the cap when he says the longer the border remains closed, the more we discover Cameroonians with talents. For example, production of face masks, sanitizers, buckets transformed to taps, etc. This is to tell us that we are talented, okay? Good evening. Prime Minister has given measures to prevent COVID-19, and the governor of the Southwest region has added by saying nobody should be spotted drinking in a bar or eating in a restaurant. Does it mean he has contradicted the Prime Minister's measures? Thanks. Thomas is writing from Boya. We that cannot afford what that can. Okay, Prince from Limbe. Your message is not clear, Prince. Good evening in the studio. I'm actually enjoying the topic, the panelists unveiling the bitter truth. Apostle Ambe, I like the way you talk. Thank you for the painful truth. Most of us are at home with our degrees, but still depending because we will not train to create a job. Now I'm learning a trade to be able to face life. Thank you for this topic, Mr. Liu. I'm serious, gaining something. Rachel, writing from Douala. Please, Mr. Liu, I need Apostle Ambe's number. I want him to mentor me. Okay, I hope you. Hello, Leo. Nice program. The system of education in Cameroon is a problem. I think it can't solve crisis in Cameroon. The system is more of theories than practicals. We lack research facilities. Few researchers carry away by juicy salaries in the Western societies. Some involved or carry away by politics. If you know the number of Cameroonian researchers who travel for further studies and never come back. In fact, we need complete startup. That is a new curriculum in Cameroon. Gentle is writing from Boya. Hello, Leo. Nice program. The system of education in Cameroon is a problem. I think it can't solve crisis in Cameroon. Okay. Many people are sharing the same view. Good evening. Ngu Peter is writing from Ekondo Titi. Why is it that ministers in Cameroon don't always act or solve problems in their respective ministries until strict instructions from the President of the Republic? Good evening, Mr. Liu, and you are intelligent panelists. I think our state universities can make the difference in times of crisis, but the curriculum should get more practical than theory. Mr. Liu, our country has a school of public works, but construction contracts are given to international companies. Does it mean we don't trust the knowledge we give out? Or are professors that make money in the name of teaching? Is Daki from Bamenda. We even train medical doctors, but our professors and statements go out for medical care. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Our government is not for the well-being of Cameroonians. Those in power are not ready to revamp our educational system to suit the present job market. God help us. Mr. Mezuzu Leonard, writing from Yaoundé. Kamto is like expressing the minds of the people, because the head of state silence in the heat of COVID-19 is a call for concern. Cameroonians listen to moves taken by other heads of states, and why should ours be different? Papa Joe is writing from Boya. Good evening to you all in the studio. I'm Forzak Zefni in Edinao. It's great to hear you build this nation at this difficult moment. Most of us go out about criticizing rather than suggesting possible solutions to solve our own problems. Please let us change our mindsets to think positive. Thank you very much for that message. Good evening to you all in the studio, and happy for what Apostle Ambe pointed towards the 3 ministries that have not contributed for the fight against COVID in Cameroon. Thank you, Bertrand. Is writing from Melon. Keep the good work. Thank you very much, Bertrand. Good evening, Mr. Liu. In our country, we employ due to personality, not by qualifications. Tell us how they would not be mixed up in ministries. How many times the President of the Republic has come on air for sensitization? Maxwell from Sisia Quarters. Sisia Quarters, I don't know where Sisia Quarters. Okay, in Bamenda. Now, I want us to look at the position of a professor in Cameroon today. They are looked upon like the dons in our universities who are supposed to give directions. They are the hem of Cameroon's educational system, not only Cameroon. What is their place in Cameroon today?
Low. I will not for any reason talk low on professors in our country. If you sat down under professors, they are very sound. We have very intelligent professors. Like I said earlier, and I will not mince my words on this platform, is that when a man's education is bought over, even the intelligence he has becomes dullness. That's the truth. When a man's intelligence is teleguided from another angle, he can even know the truth and refuse to tell it because why? He's afraid to lose something. If you look at what these professors sit in class and teach, all these nationalists and revolutionaries who are rising in this country were trained by these same professors. They are bold in speaking in the private, and they are not bold in teaching the population in the public, which means they have the solution, but they are afraid to voice out the solution. Let me say this with all sincerity. If a professor who has actually studied peace and conflict management happens to be a party member or a ruling party member in this country, I can tell that he can know all the in and out in solving the problem, but because of the party he belongs to, he allows his political inclinations and interests to swallow up the intelligence and the skill that he has gotten all the years in education. So I am going to repeat to say that our Cameroonian professors are very intelligent, but if you look at it critically, almost everybody is looking for one appointment, ministerial position, directorial position, or one other office, and because of that, they are even afraid to say something. I have been on panels with professors that will tell me that those are not things we can say on the public. That I'm telling you this from behind, and I ask them that how do you help Cameroonians by swallowing such a wealth of understanding that you have, and you are keeping it from behind just because you are trying to work for your self-aggrandizement and self-interest. If we don't go out of self-interest and self-glory, we can never work for the betterment of the country. That's the simple truth. If you look at it critically, a lot of people know the truth about certain solutions to this country. But because bringing in that solution will either offend their authorities or jeopardize their position or quench out the bread they are eating every day with their family, they will not prefer to take the wealth of knowledge they have, which is the truth to solve a crisis, and swallow it rather than giving it out. So I cannot say our professors are not intelligent. We have very intelligent professors in this country. I have heard them in the private, and what they are in the private is not what they are in the public.
Okay. Well, it's not what is now the doctors we have in Cameroon and professors, most of them who are very good in maybe in the classrooms are taken to hold administrative positions. Is that also something that works against the effectiveness of some of our state universities?
Mr. Liu, that might be one of the reasons. But also
that goes even down to secondary school.
Of course,
you have a litany of personnel appointed discipline masters. You have a school that has 10 vice principals, and yes.
Mr. Liu, that might be one of the reasons. It is one of the reasons. When a learned person of that caliber, or let's use the word, an educationist, is picked out of the university and actually released into a political office for let's say an administrative office, he's sitting there. What he's supposed to do is supposed to do what the nation expects him to do, not what he knows. And most of the times, with the system in which we are in, you can't actually use your know-how to institute what you think you should do.
Yes, it's not possible.
If creativity is permitted in every administrative office we own, you see a lot of differences, and you see a lot of things that people will do. But because you are not permitted to operate out of the book, it becomes a challenge for all those dons, those professors and doctors who have taken a lot of time to learn,
research,
and do all the research they have done, to come out and be able to give the results they are expected to give. Cameroonians might not actually understand that. And one other issue also might also be the issue of the system of education in which we are held down to use. You might actually know very well that this system is not good, but because that is where your money will be coming from, you only need to keep on doing the same thing you are supposed to be doing. But you see, Mr. Leo, that is also another place where I have as a problem with most of my colleagues. Is the issue that we do not want to actually step out of the mode, because we are supposed to get into a place where we start establishing private institutions, which we use as, should I use as a pilot project to establish what we hope to establish. For example, if we want to actually change the educational system of Cameroon, we need to open or establish institutions where we apply what we believe that is supposed to be done, while following the traditional curriculum which is given. We bring in what we believe that is supposed to be done, and with that we are raising a people who have because we need entrepreneurial individuals to be raised from institutions, from schools, not to actually promote Nick Wanya. As an individual, he has schooled in this nation of Cameroon. He has seen the failures of the educational system. He's established his own institution, and in that institution he is very practical. Certainly there is what the government expects for you to come and write the HND. They will teach you people, but they need to give you practical education which permits you to become innovative and productive when you leave school. And I think that is where a lot of us have a problem, because we just want to follow, and then you see, most professors end up being poor people, not because that is the way it's supposed to be.
Okay.
The reason, Mr. Leo, is because we believe that we are just supposed to teach and then we collect our salary. But salary is not supposed to be the motivation of educating an individual. Educating somebody is supposed to become, you are seeing the future in that person and you are struggling to bring out that future. And Mr. Leo, to dive down, one thing I want also to inform a lot of you Cameroonians watching at us at this hour is that education is not the reception of information. Education is an inspiration that permits you to come out with what you possess inside of you. Each one of us carries something, and once you are motivated, when you are inspired through the learning you do in schools, you can come up with something. And that is the kind of way our curriculums are supposed to look like. Why? Because education is actually bringing out from within an individual what he carries, not what you put in his head.
Okay, some people are of the opinion, Professor Mark and Apostle Lambe, that we are where we are, especially our centers of excellence, have been transformed into political theaters where competence and meritocracy is shelved aside for those who can militate very well. So you find state universities and other institutions filled with people because of their political leaning.
Of course, like I said, if we want to allow the professors in this country to give out their best, they are supposed to be apolitical. The professors are supposed to be apolitical to give out actually what they have gathered all the years. Secondly, the professors are supposed to be given a good salary. How do you explain that a doctor in Rwanda earns more than a doctor in Cameroon?
Doctor in Cameroon takes 300,000.
How do you explain that? How do you explain that a teacher in Rwanda earns more than a teacher in Cameroon? According to statistics, Cameroon is a better economy than Rwanda. Now, when people are not properly paid, they will start to look for means to find themselves into offices that they are not even called to. You see a professor of medicine, like we used to have Victor Nomangu, the man who described the Vanivax. When he was appointed Minister of Health in this country, he said that's not his area. His place is in the field. Putting him under a ministry is like suffocating him under a tent.
True.
Bring him out to the field, let him carry out his research. Now, the people who are supposed to be doing researches in this country, they have left the classes and they are into ministries. Because while in the ministry, they have a better bone to bite. And as a professor in a classroom, he has nothing to gain. So we have taken the potentials and blocked them into ministries. We've not given them chance to be in the field. And agriculturally supposed to know, the people they are supposed to appoint as ministers in the country are first degree holders and A-level holders. The professors are supposed to be in the field and they are giving substantial amount of money, more than even a minister. You will see wonders in this country. And if the professor because a professor who gets into the university, the next thing he's looking for is an appointment in the government. Yes. Because why? He earns 300,000 in the university, and as a minister, he can sweep as he wants. Yes. As a director, he can sweep. If he's appointed an ambassador, we have ambassadors who are supposed to be here carrying out research. But because it is a juicy office, his objective for living has been siphoned by an office. So I think let's get back to the place whereby let our professors who have come out from different countries in those countries, let them become apolitical and let them raise the standard of living. That's the problem we have. Recent incident that occurred in Yaoundé, people who have obtained doctorates are drinking poison to die because they were not given chance to lecture. Why should you study to lecture? You study to create, Mr. Liu. You don't study to lecture. That's the reason why you see if you go, I met a young man who came from China. He's an applied chemist. He does chocolate, he does soap, he does yogurt and all kinds of things. Why? He went to China, he did more of practicals. All this soap you watch here, Detroit and the rest, they are Nigerians making it. They are the ones doing it because why? When they travel out of the country, they went to do practical work. I told somebody that if you travel abroad and come back to Africa here with used mattress, used cars, used shoes and shirt, you are a monumental error in the continent of Africa. You have to study abroad, go there and learn a skill there and come back. Let's not go and begin to pack the shares of you and bring it into Africa here. Anybody that travels to abroad should come back with something that he has learned to come and transfer knowledge. Rather than going to abroad to gather old cars, old mattresses, old shoes, and old towels they call brocante. It's amazing that Africans travel to go and carry the waste of Europe to Africa. Why they were supposed to go and sit in institutions and learn certain things and come back here? So the challenge we have is that let our professors become apolitical and let them raise their finances.
Yeah, but how do we get them to be apolitical? Who do you blame? Is it the professor who thinks that he's not well paid and then needs some juicy positions to get some money out of the government? Or the government who knows that the responsibility of the professors is to build the academia so that they can provide solutions to the problems that Cameroon is faced with, instead of absorbing them away from the amphitheaters and using them in the ministries in Yaoundé.
It is greed, Mr. Liu. A professor is a polyvalent material. He can have 4 sources of income at one blow. He must not have a political appointment to make the amount of money he's looking for. It's obvious.
I want to also say, in one way or the other, the government is pushing them to do that. Yes, it is true.
Well, that's not an excuse.
It is true that each individual is supposed to have multiple streams of income, of making income. But a researcher spends more time in actually researching, which means he will not have the time to begin to do all those things you are saying. So if he is supposed to actually invest himself in struggling to bring out the best, he is supposed to have a peaceful head. But you discover, somebody wrote and told us, and as I said earlier, that we are using weapons of the 19th century to fight battles of the 21st century, implying that our educational system is an outdated educational system from the 19th century that is still being used in teaching in the 21st century. There is no progress. Why? Because as a professor, when I come and I sit in a classroom, I'm not struggling to add anything to what they have given me to give. I need my money. First of all, if you look in back 1990s, salaries of lecturers and teachers were actually sliced. They were paid practically nothing. You don't expect somebody who is educating the future of tomorrow to enter into a classroom with hunger in his stomach. No, they will not have that time. The Apostle John said they are supposed to have many sources of income. He will be looking for a means to create another one in order to eat. And most of them leave the classrooms and travel out of the country because it is not good here. But those that are still there, we appreciate them. And I also want to call on to the government to see into it that they work with these guys. See into it that they are actually paid so that they can do their job well and allow them the freedom to be able to reshape the system, the educational system. I don't think it is a minister that has the responsibility to shape the system of education in Cameroon. It is those who are in the field. We know better what these children need at this particular moment.
Yeah, but the directives have to come from
yes,
somewhere.
Mr. Leo, directives
I wish to ask another challenge we have. The challenge is that
directives would normally come from the presidency. But you know, before the president actually gives a go-ahead over something, there are supposed to be proposals people raise up.
Bottom top
yes,
approach.
bottom top approach. So I believe that a lot of proposals have already gone. We are waiting to see if there's going to be a validation.
Yes, Apostle.
I'm asking that we're talking about professors in what? That's why we have to start asking questions.
Yeah, but professors in all the fields, because let us you may be tempted to believe that we need professors only in the domain of sciences.
No.
But mind you that Cameroon,
that's not what I said.
the northwest and southwest regions is faced with a very critical issue that needs experts in political science, historians.
Which is very correct.
Yes.
Which is very, very correct. I'm not against it. I was asking that we have professors in what? That's what I was supposed to ask first. We have to the percentage of professors we have in Cameroon in what field? Because we may be talking that we have 100 professors, 80 are in law.
No, we have
and then 20 are in different fields. So we have more law professors who don't have law crisis. We might not have law crisis. We have to do that statistics.
We practically have professors in every field of...
Nobody is against that. Nobody is against that. We obviously have professors in different fields. Which of the fields are we having the professors more? Okay. That is the problem.
Okay, that is the problem. Let me take some few messages, then we continue. Good evening, Mr. Leo, and all the panelists. Mr. Leo, Cameroon will be a good nation if they will use their own brains. Mr. Leo, you can't imagine government will send students for scholarship upon returning home. They will ask the students to wait for 2 years before integration into the public service. I have one of my friends here in the United Arab Emirates. Government sponsored him for 4 good years, and he obtained a degree with a 4.0 GPA in automobile and mechanical engineering. And when they got home, the government asked them to wait for 2 years, and that if they don't want to wait, can collect their documents and do what that you want to do. And he told he was ready to work for the government, even for internship, and they refused. He is here in the United Arab Emirates working in automobile company as the main engineer. He told me the reason why he could not wait for 2 years was no means for living, so he had to travel. My problem is, why spend money on students you can't use them for the growth of the country? A primary school teacher in the United Arab Emirates earns more than a lecturer in Cameroon. Okay, I'm sure the economy is good. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm so impressed with your idea coming up with such a program. I'm praying for you and the program to continue and create the impact it was visioned for. We are talking about creativity, and this program, you have come up with it to educate the society soon. Evil politicians will want to fight against, but God will stop them before they get their plans realized, in Jesus' name. Amen. Please, sir, for the panelist numbers, I wish to meet them in person. Thanks. Tabi is writing from Bamenda. Tabi, please just call me after the program. Hello, Leo. If a professor says the head of state is a natural candidate, it shows how empty some of them are. We need to clean up the system and allow the good ones to train. Some grammar schools should be converted to technical schools, or better still, let technical education be compulsory for primary and first 2-3 years of secondary school. I think we all can now see that Anglophones have a point. Greetings to the panelists. Amos is writing from Boston in the United States of America. Okay. Hello to you all. I really enjoy the program. I hope it inspires the government and its citizens. More respect to the apostle. I'm Maximola, writing from Mutengene. Good evening to you all. With our companies, why our companies are still being controlled by white is the matter of belief that we think there is the best. Our brothers who are in their countries are giving their best to them. Also, they can't come back because our government don't pay them well, since we don't trust ourselves. Take, for example, now we have one Nigerian in Japan who just produced a free called app. White will develop it but our government can't. You said Biya hands are tied as to implement his visions. That's not true. He cares more for his power, not Cameroon. Uga is writing from Dubai. Good evening to you, Mr. Liu, and the panelists on board. I love your program and the way the panelists are analyzing things. I've been on the Ministry of Scientific Research and Innovation to go down and find the forgotten genius, raw talents, molded talents irrespective of their educational backgrounds, provides them with tools that can enable research so as to start our own inventions. Dennis is writing from Douala here. Good evening, sir. I would like to make a call to you. I want to talk to you about Cameroon, what I have been seeing all these days. Please, may I know who is writing? And good evening to you all in the studio. I'm really enjoying the show, and I also the Brace Talk. I wish you guys more wisdom. It's Daniela writing from Limbe. Daniela, good evening to you. Good evening to the panelists. Mr. Liu, please give handshakes to the two guests for me. They have made some very strong and reasonable points. I wish the show can continue till tomorrow. Yega is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening to you, Yega. Hello, good evening to you all. I am enjoying the program. I love it. This is Humphrey writing from Canada. Good evening to you, Humphrey. We're glad to know that you are always there to follow and make contributions to our program. Good evening, Mr. Liu. My first time to come across this channel. I'm really so moved with the idea. Great knowledge from those two wise men. Akenji is writing from Douala. Yeah. This one says, I need the numbers too. Your program is sweet. Gerard writing from United Arab Emirates. Now, let's look at research. Cameroon is faced with COVID-19 and a host of other problems. Many people are looking up to research. Do we need much investment by the government in research?
Of course. Any country that does not involve or invest in research is going nowhere. It's going nowhere because I realize that people who go practicals are more efficient than those who go theoretical. If you look in the two regions of Cameroon, the English and the French, I used to make fun of it that if you want to win an English girl, speak good grammar. If you want to win a French girl, show her your business. We know we have the best doctors in Cameroon. They can articulate grammar, they can put English into order. You come to French, so you will not hear doctors are billionaires. You hear Ngrepi, maybe he didn't even have him first school. You hear Fosso Victor, they didn't even have him probatoire. Yeah. You hear Kaji de Fosso, he doesn't even have. So why are these billionaires from the French region instead the ones who are not learned? Why we have more learned people in the English-speaking region who speak more grammar and have no results? I did this study and I came to realize that most of those men did business at a very tender stage. They didn't go to school. The business themselves gave them the skill and the intelligence they needed. While we were in classroom being told of what we don't know in the field. I am a pastor. The class, they can teach you how to plant 10 churches in 1 week. But if you go to the field to plant a church, before you know how to plant a church, you can take 1 year to plant, to even gather 2 people.
Have a homestead.
You understand? So we are more of the theory, because if you want to win an English girl, you say, oh, when I saw you, you mesmerized me, your beauty was magnificent, and then you come to the friend zone. It's not like that. It's not like that. The people are very practical. So I've realized that the billionaires in Cameroon are not too educated. And I was asking myself, what is in this education that those who are not going to school are instead succeeding? And the ones who are going to school are not making the rest impact. I've questioned myself. Then I came to realize that the man who didn't go to school lived in his business for long. And his failures and his successes taught him the business. While those who went to school studied what they studied in the class. When they came back to the field to manifest it, they realized that practicals are quite different from theories. So I think the challenge we have in Cameroon is that we have long years of theory. It's not in context of what you're about to do in the field. So that's the challenge we have. A man who does mechanic in a garage at the age of 10 can fix a car better than him that has a degree in mechanic from a technical school.
True.
Now, somebody told me that when you go to Europe, they don't focus more on theories. The people are too centered around practical. So they bundle all these big books like NERCOM for physics and send to us. They don't read it. They don't read it. Where are the ones reading NERCOM? You have a thick book like this. When would a Form 5 child finish reading NERCOM?
It's outdated.
It's outdated, and the information they don't even need it. So we have to do something possible to try to reduce the volumes of the book we are reading. Have you ever seen biological science?
Okay.
Biological science.
I'm intrigued by this one. This one's writing from Nigeria. Say hello. Hello to you also. I want, there's a message I saw. I want to read so that we can react on it. This one's a greetings to all. Apostle Lambe is saying, my mind, Cameroon has the worst education system in Africa. There is no proof to that. I'm sure if you go to other countries, say Chad, Central African Republic, you would admire what we have here. We train doctors, but they are not being used. Instead, people, especially government officials, go abroad for healthcare. Cameroon has no vision at all when it comes to education. We focus more on the theory than practical. Noberto Fernandez, writing from Limbe. Good evening to you, Noberto. I'm looking for a message here. Okay, Muhammadu, my friend writing from Yaoundé, says, good evening, Mr. Liu. It may be a surprise for you to hear that in the university we are still using the notes of students who left school in 1998 as lecture notes. Okay, that is a problem that we find in most primary schools and most secondary schools and the universities. What happens that somebody enters a department and then leaves, and maybe the junior sister comes to that same department 5, 6, 7 years later, and is using
the same notes,
exact notes of the elder sister who left the department 10 or 15 years.
Mr. Leo, let me cut in. There is a definition I give to Cameroon education. It's accumulated of repeated information without innovation. That's the definition. And the illiteracy of the 21st century is not him that has not gone to school. It's the one that has refused to learn, unlearn, and relearn.
Yes.
To come back to that point, I started here and I said we are using an outdated educational structure and system. Why did I say so? It is based on this issue that if you go back now, what they are teaching my children
is
what I learned. So what does that mean? It means that there is no progress. It is a stagnant educational system. And as I said, what you learn does not fit in context with the problems. And secondly, you can't actually be using somebody who learned something in 1980 does not have the same challenges that we have in this particular 21st century and in this 1920 or 2020. And as a result of the fact that this particular system permits and actually grooms stagnancy, you would not expect to see any of these young people become productive tomorrow. And that is why if you discover every young man is looking for a way out of the country.
Of course.
Because they will ask you the question, are you the first person to have gone to school? You are not the first. What did you learn? It's the same thing I learned. It's the same thing that grandfather that is sitting presently in that office learned. So what do you think you can bring new? Since it is an outdated program, they know that those people who are sitting in the offices now knows what you know.
Of course.
So there's nothing new you can give.
Yeah.
But if our educational system was a progressive educational system where each year it is actually innovated to fit in the context of the challenges we are facing per season, then we'll have a very developed nation. But you see, we are targeting 2035 for emergence. But our educational system remains the same. The same things we learned in the 1980s, we'll be learning in 2035. Question, then which progress, which emergence are we talking about?
There's no
you
change.
Can't emerge if you are at the same level of thinking you were yesterday. Listen to me, you can't solve a problem. This is Albert Einstein. He says you can't solve a problem that you created. In fact, you can't use the same mindset you use in creating a problem to solve that same problem. If you have to solve that problem, you need to upgrade your mindset. So your mindset must be at a different level for you to be able to solve the problem. So if you expect these young people who are learning today to actually be the ones to bring emergence tomorrow, it's a lie. Except that this educational system is completely scrapped off and something new re-established. Why? Because it is the same result they will bring tomorrow. Why? They are learning the same thing.
Okay, they are learning the same thing. Yes, the guy is right. UB is an example. I studied there. 2007 questions, the same in 2013. Okay, good evening, Mr. Leo. I love your program, so keep it up. May one day change the nation of this nasty country of our type. How can researchers or those sponsored by the state be employed after putting in so many years in learning when the country administrators are made of old people? Work in Cameroon now is Godfather, and you scratch my back, I scratch your own. Kavis is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening, Kavis. Good evening, Mr. Liu. It's Maje Ruben from Douala. I love your program. I wish you continue every day because conversation is another means of education. Okay, thank you very much. This one says, hello, I actually like this program. Your guests are wonderful. Please extend my regards to them. Hamza Aliyu, writing from Boya. This one says, hello, Mr. Liu, it's Flora from Bamenda. What we just need now is to keep hoping that everything will be okay. Cameroon as a whole has nothing as far as I'm concerned. If some of these, our rich men in Cameroon can open businesses and employ, it will be very good. Please, government, have mercy on us. Good evening to you all. Flora is writing from Bamenda. Flora, good evening to you. Cameroon education believe in us. Cameroon education believe in as much as it was in the beginning, it will be so till the kingdom come. We have a format. We have to format our mindset and wipe out this grammar of education and do practice. We need to teach more and practice less theory. St. Derek writing from Bonaberry in Douala. Good evening to you, Derek. Song. I'm writing from Houston in Texas. I'm Bati from Houston, Texas. In Cameroon, they teach you to find X or Y. Until today, I have not seen the X nor Y. So education is not that useful there too, due to corruption and greed from the government. Education, let's look at the process of selection of those who are molding the children, because we are talking about a system of education manned by people who were selected either to teach a lecture in the universities or appointed to some of these positions. We equally know that for you to teach in the secondary school, you go through a selection process into ENS. Is there also a problem at that level? Because once we don't have the right persons, you can't have the right formula.
You know, the challenge we have is that another definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting better results. If at all we have a particular pattern of recruiting teachers in the country, you will realize that more of the recruitment in this country is not based on competence, it's based on connection. In Cameroon here, once children graduate from or high school, They look for who is connected to who. We have ENAM, Advanced School Administration and Magistracy. We have IRIC. We have ENS, Higher and Lower ENS. Most of these institutions, before the concours will come out, the names of those who are going to be there already. Before Polytechnic, we are talking of where somebody has 5 A levels in science. Is not qualified to go to Polytechnic, but somebody that has 2E in science because has connection is going there. So the challenge is that politics has infiltrated even the sectors they were not supposed to infiltrate. It's often said that there is a curse in Africa. Let me put it this way: the man that has first-class degree is sent to professional school. That's why you see all the Qs and Polytechnic. Those are people who have first class. The man that has second-class degree writes ENAM and becomes an administrator. The man that has third class joins a political party, becomes an MP and a senator. He's the one that decides the law that governs a first-class man who is a professional school and controls the second-class man who is the administrator. Then a man who didn't go to school, who is a herbalist, a first school holder, he controls the politician who has third class. The politician controls the second class administrator by voting bills. Then the administrator controls the first class. So at the end of the day, the man who didn't go to school is the one that has first class. There is a jumble up of educational system in Africa until we become very sincere to acknowledge the fact that people should be going to certain institutions based on meritocracy, not connection. Then we are not going to have the best brains. Like I've said earlier, Cameroon does not have a problem because we lack the brains. No, because the brains we have in Cameroon have not been given the opportunity to display what is inside of them. This crisis going on like this, some of us who sit on television here, if we gather a few brains who have been left aside and put together, we can bring a solution to the crisis. The COVID-19 started. It was on this television we sat down and began giving procedures and points to follow immediately. We would not have been where we are today. So you don't think that Cameroon doesn't have brains. When we talk about brains, if you look at the critical, we go to Europe and America, we enter into classes. When you sit black children with white children, the difference is clear. But at the time of creativity, in the time of innovation, the time of producing something practical, that is where our challenges are. So I think that what we have here in Africa as a challenge is that we have not given the poor have the brains the opportunity to display. Politics has fizzled into almost every sector of the nation until it has closed even the opportunity of those who are supposed to manifest.
Yeah. Is a problem at the level of the selection of those to man these universities?
Mr. Leo, that is one of the problems because there is no meritocracy in our system. There is, like Apostle said, there is a lot of politics that has entered into the whole show. There are children whom we are sending to ENS. I think for you to have a teacher in ENS, it's supposed to be an individual who has the desire to actually lecture.
What's a call?
Who has the call to teach. And because of poverty, a lot of young people rush into ENS just because they need a matriculation number that can permit them to take a salary. So a lot of them are not going there because they actually merit to be teachers. Some of them are not going there because it is a calling for them to accomplish. They are going there because they need money. So a lot of them enter into it not for service but for their stomachs. And for those institutions where, for example, when we are talking about ENAM, where you need to enter into it because of might be one exams you wrote and passed a concours, most of those whom you see appointed there, they are appointed. This one is, by my opinion, not based on every evidence, any evidence I can give, because you are connected somewhere. You are being actually brought into the school. Your name appears on the list even before exams actually comes out.
Okay.
And Mr. Leo, look at it. We have Polytechnic in Cameroon that is supposed to produce the highest technicians and engineers. But the question is, you just asked a question. Can our state universities and professional institutions, we should add that, show the way out of the crisis? Is there any results that you see coming from Polytechnic? Who are those who go to Polytechnic? Do you have any result? Is there any technical productivity that you have been able to hear that came from the Polytechnic Yaoundé? I don't think there is any in relation to the entire nation.
The doctors are from QS. That's also a center?
That's also a center. Doctors coming from QS, but who are incompetent, would need to go and actually complete their studies out of the country.
I would say
reasons why a lot of our ministers
I know many who are doing.
Mr. Leo, general practicing is okay, but when it comes to specialization, they still travel out to make themselves competent enough.
They save lives.
We accept and we appreciate what they do, but that is why you discover that those big guns that are sitting in big offices, when they are sick,
there are many doctors from Cameroon who are excelling out there.
Do you know most of them? Most of the people sitting there, they know very well they are not competent, so that's why they are sick. They live out of the country.
No, maybe they are maybe they may be competent, but they lack the equipment.
Let's build our hospitals in a way where and train our doctors in a way where they can handle things.
Okay, let me take this few last messages. Those I can read. Good evening, Leo. Your program is wonderful. Remember that passion plays a role in teaching. Many who teach now are doing so for livelihood. How can we be practical when teachers demand money during craft and handwork assignments? I am Oben Senior, writing from Boya. Good evening, Mr. Leo. When I was in GTHS studying woods work, I knew I'll be a super wood designer, but due to the hardship, I went home practicing agriculture. But today, I'm very, very proud of myself because I teach students from various universities of the country for free internship programs. Okay? That's great. Good evening to you all. What Pastor is saying is correct. I wanted to go to Enam. My cousin said he needs to connect me to one of his friends, which I will pay 2 million to enter. What's all that? Our country is corrupt. Cecilia is writing from Limbe in Isokolo. Hello, the system of education in this country has to switch totally from the base right up to the universities to a technical system for us to have more productive young men and women. This is Chris Benla writing from Yaoundé. Greetings, gentlemen. Cameroon's leadership is poor because they believe in titles and connections rather than competence and meritocracy. There is no innovation in our educational system, which renders students useless upon graduation. Only the grace of God can set us free from this. Elif Daniel writing from Yaoundé. If the government knows that they will not change, let them tell us so that when we give birth to our children, we should send to do business or learn work rather than wasting time in the name of schooling. Paul from Limbe, please invite Far Elvis Prince and be on panelists next program. Okay? Good evening to you, Mr. Liu, and the panelists. I love the program, and I want to say that our state universities can only try to solve food crisis. UB, for me, is lecturers will bring notes from 2.5 decades and dictate. Many students are in the streets do what they did not read in the university. Okay, that is survival skills also taught in some of these universities, because I'm sure I was taught how to survive in the university. Good evening to you in the program. I'm just a technical student studying electricity, but a common building in school, they look for an electrician outside. Then what are we learning? Means is
my God.
Roland is writing from Bamenda. Good evening to you there, Mr. Leo. When you are not informed, you are deformed with what you are doing there. We help alert us here in Cameroon. Innocent writing from Boya. Lots of messages from Boya. I'm glad to know that. I'm sure there is electricity in Boya this night. Puka from Limbe says this will a lot, but not everyone has TV in his or her house. Okay.
So educate a lot.
Good evening, Mr. Liu and Leonard panelists. I must confess to you that I love my Media Prime for its wonderful programs like this one. Please, we need our educational sector needs reform, else we will be spending our time speaking grammar instead of creating opportunities. Hilary is writing from Yaoundé. Greetings to you all in the studio. We have students in Cameroon universities who can't move forward with their research because of lack of modern and even basic equipment which a normal university should have. That's why with a master's degree from Cameroon, you might be required to redo the program when you go abroad for further studies. Deloy is writing from Tombel. Those old heads just want you to go to school and go in for concours and not get better than them. It's Curtis writing from Tico. I hope this country can change and become like USA someday. By Ketu James writing from Manjo. Good evening to you, Ketu. Notwithstanding, I really wish the government could improve on the level of governance with respect to youth empowerment in fields like agriculture. Wish you all in the studio a good night. Edwin Wingo writing from Bamenda. Greetings to you, Mr. Liu. I love this program with passion. I want to congratulate your guests for today because they are making real sense, especially the one with the cap. More grace to your elbows. Evelyn writing from Yaoundé. We have to end at this juncture. Professor Mark Anthony Afumbom, we are glad you were part of this show. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Liu, and it's my pleasure, and I think it's always a privilege being here. And I want to say thank you. All of you were actually watching at us, and I believe that you learned something, and by virtue of what you learned, I'm sure you're going to start doing something to improve yourself while waiting for the educational system to be actually restructured. Okay.
Hello, good evening once more. Again, I salute all your panelists for the wonderful contributions as far as this topic is concerned. Cameroonians now depend on the head of state speech, which says the youth should invest more in agriculture, which perhaps will serve as a source of employment. How can they go employing when all the youth are expected to do agriculture? Okay. Greetings to the panel. The problems of education in Cameroon is lack of political will. Imagine master students of the Department of Geography and Planning wants to carry out the planning of housing and waste management in Bamenda City as part of their practicals, but the city delegate refused to visa the application. Efficient is writing from Bamenda. We hope that the city mayor is going to change his mind. Just imagine seeing a doctorate degree holder refusing to eat and collapse in front of a minister's office because he or she is not recruited in the public service. What kind of training can this kind of lecturer give to his okay, Tem is writing from Limit. Tem, that is hard. Good evening, great people. I love your program. Finally, we got a TV channel that can educate Cameroonians. God is great. Keep up, my people. Ateze Emos, writing from Bafusam. Mr. Liu, ENS is like any other exams in Cameroon. It's bought like a piece of bread. People don't write, but they are selected. Okay? Good evening, my brothers in the studio. I'm Banga Gabriel from Douala. The government is unable to regulate the economic situation in times of crisis. Landlords in New Kamwata Sunara are making money, but the government is waiving and inflicting pain on citizens even when there is no work. Companies shut down. It's a pity to the decision makers of this country. Apostle Ambe, we are glad you're part of the show this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. It's a privilege always to be on this platform and to appreciate the millions of televiewers of My Media Prime and Prime Hour, specifically the talk of the nation. We want to appreciate you also for your contributions and your encouragement. We are humble for the recommendations you give to us, and we are proud to say we are standing with our toes established on the earth to see that Cameroon becomes a better place. Okay. One more word for you, televiewers. The Nigerian Minister of Health said they will depend on indigenous drugs to fight against COVID-19. So Cameroonians, start looking for the grasses and the barks of trees to fight against COVID-19.
Okay. JC, we say thank you to you at the broadcasting. We say thank you to you too, Eli, and to you, Desmond. You guys have been doing your job very wonderfully since the morning. We equally want to say thank you to the thousands of millions of televiewers who watch the program in and out of the country. We equally want to say thank you to you, Tambe Bryant, who is supervising our work out here. And it's a bye from us. Stay blessed. Good night.